Om Namo Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namaha Pankajanabhaya Namaha Pankajamaline Namaha Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangrahe Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sopadantikam Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So welcome you all once again. Sorry for yesterday, some family commitment. Okay, so we'll continue today our discussion on Canto 12, and today we'll continue chapter number 4. So this is we discussed this last canto, and where the Sukadeva Goswami described about this Kali Yuga, basically, and we've elaborately seen about this ocean of faults in the Kali Yuga. That verse very nicely we described yesterday on Monday. And Sukadeva Goswami says, Kaliya doso ne diya rajan hasti ek mahan guna. But in this Kali Yuga, though it has ocean of faults, but it has one mahan guna, the greatest quality. What is that? Kirtanad eva Krishnasya mukta sangha param prajet. So by chanting the holy name of taking shelter of Krishna, doing Krishna kirtan, one can go back to God, go back to Godhead. So that's the beauty of Kali Yuga. Though it's polluted completely, but still it's a very nice place to actually practice life and go back to the Godhead. So that's why Sukadeva Goswami it's emphatically make this point, and also it's been described by many devotees about this verse that how Sukadeva Goswami is giving us all an opportunity to understand that the importance of Kali Yuga, and we also understood about the importance of rarity of the human life, and then though it's very rare, but taking shelter of Lord Krishna's is again more rarest, or the sadhu sangha or sadhus are rarest. In the similar way, Kali Yuga, though in the 4 ages it is a degraded one from Sati Yuga, and we have seen how this 4 the limbs or foot of the legs of dharmas get degraded by 25%, 25%, and in Kali Yuga it will go more degraded, but still it has a very great guna or quality that by taking shelter of Harinam, one can get liberated or one can get back to Godhead very easily. Right? So, having that note in chapter 3, we'll continue the discussion in chapter 4, where Sukadeva Goswami describes about the chapter name is the 4 categories of universal annihilation. So the 4 ways by which the destruction happens. So Sukadeva Goswami described in this way, because now Parīkṣit Mahārāja actually very near in next chapter we will see in the next chapter will be the final instructions by Sukadeva Goswami to Parīkṣit Mahārāja, and Sukadeva Goswami will go back, and Takshak Nag will come and bite Parīkṣit Mahārāja. So 2 more important chapters after that we'll discuss about how Suta Goswami narrates the same to Naimisharanya Rishi, or Shonakadi Rishi Naimisharanya. So chapter 4 says the 4 categories of universal annihilation. So Sukadeva Goswami here describes about the time of Brahma and a process of annihilation. So we have seen this picture earlier, but still let me share it and let me see it again. That that lifetime of Brahmaji. So I'll go from the bottom one. So if you see that this called as Dibya Yuga. So one Dibya Yuga is consists of 4 yugas: Sati Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. The very last column here. Maybe you can see this point here, the last one, right? This Dibya Yuga. And then in Dibya Yuga, one is Sati Yuga. That's the duration of Sati Yuga is the most, the bigger one. And the Treta Yuga and Dwapara and Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga has 4,32,000 years, and Dwapara Yuga is double of, Dwapara Yuga is double of Kali Yuga. And in the middle you can see the sandhyas. So the sandhyas are basically kind of overlapping between the yugas. And Treta Yuga is triple of Kali Yuga, and Sati Yuga is quadruple of Kali Yuga. And that's how this whole process of whole cycle of one Sati Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga is called as one Dibya Yuga. And on top of that, we go to the second stage where it says Manvantara. So there are 71 Dibya Yugas consist of one Manvantara. So in one Manvantara, there are 71 Dibya Yugas, and one Dibya Yuga consists of Sati Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. And then again, once Kali Yuga finishes, Sati Yuga starts. The cycle goes on. And on top of that, the day of Brahma, where it says 14 Manvantaras. It means in one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manvantaras, and in each Manvantar, there are 71 Dibya Yuga. So it's completely comes to as nearly 1,000 Dibya Yugas in one day of Brahma. And that's the same is a span of Lord Brahma's night as well. And hence, and Lord Brahma lives in this way for 100 years. That's why he's also called as Amar or Aja, because it's comparatively to our lifespan, Lord Brahma's lifespan is so huge that you can actually, it looks to be Amar, a non-dying person, right? So the lifespan of Brahmaji says in 311.04 trillion years, right? And then hence, this is the description given by in the Shastras about the life of Brahma. And when the life of Brahma, when the day of Brahma finishes, there is some annihilation. And when the day comes, it again, the creation happens again. But again, once Lord Brahma lives for 100 years, everything goes back to Mahavishnu over there. So let's see how it describes about the 4 types of annihilation over there, right? So this is way, this is called as 100 Dibya Yuga, that is one day of Brahma, right? And in that we have seen there's 14 Manus, and in each Manu there are 72 Dibya Yuga. So, and then it describes about 4 types of annihilation. The first one it says as naimittika. Naimittika is basically called as occasional annihilation. I think someone joined now. Okay. So we are discussing Canto 12, chapter number 4, where we have seen about this day of Brahma, and as well as how long Brahma lives. And then the first type of destruction or annihilation is described as naimittika. Naimittika is what? Is it happens at each day of Brahma. So once Brahma's day finishes, before night, everything goes back. So Lord absorbs entire universe, and Brahma goes to sleep for the night. So as we go to sleep, Lord Brahma go to sleep for night. And we discussed that one day is 1,000 Dibya Yugas. So one Dibya Yuga consists of 4 yugas. So that's long. Lord Brahma sleeps as well in the same duration for the time. And then when Lord Brahma get up in the morning, it again creates, because everyone was just absorbed into the Lord's body, it again emanates from there. And then second type of annihilation called as prākṛtika. Prākṛtika is elemental. Elemental is basically, it happens at the end of Brahma's life. So it means after 100 years of Brahma, this and again whole universe just goes back, all the universe just goes back into the body of Mahavishnu. So there it says, so what it happens at the time is being described that there will be no rain upon earth for 100 years. In our calculation of years, there will be no rain upon the earth, and drought will lead to famine, and the starving populace will literally consume one another, and they will so much scarcity of food that people will start eating each other's kind of things. And then the inhabitants of earth, bewildered by the force of time, will gradually be destroyed, and this universal egg, that will get destroyed. Another time there will be no rain, and sun will drink all the water from the ocean of the living entity, but there will be no rain. And we discussed earlier that sun takes the water from the ocean, and then he gives back to the earth in the form of rain. But in the last time, or when the Brahma's days was ending, it will not happen. So only sun will drink the water. And then from the below, the fire will get emanated from the Lord Sankarsana's mouth. Let me bring up that picture. Maybe you can let me find it out. Okay, I think I got it. Hope you can see it, right? Let me zoom it a bit more. Right. So you can see this, right? So from this is one egg, or an universal egg. Okay, this part, right? This is one egg, universal egg. And then on the below, as described here, that this Ananta Shekhar, Lord Sankarsana, will emanate fire. So from top it will be hot from sun, and from bottom it will be fire from emanating from Lord Sankarsana. And hence, let me clear it. Right. And then, so it will burn, basically it will burn from all sides, above by sun, and from below it will fire from Lord Sankarsana's mouth. Right. And after that, after 100 years, so basically we can say the last 200 years of ours in calculation over there. So 100 years, no rain, all drought, fire from Lord Sankarsana's mouth, and as well as hot from sun. And then it will burn all sides. And after that 100 years, clouds will gather and start so many thunder, and they will pour down water as a flood for 100 years. And then everything or earth will get dissolved. So in last 200 years kind of things, maybe you can say as last Kali Yuga of Lord Brahma's days, this will happen kind of, right? And then this is called as elemental annihilation. Like first is Lord Brahma's every night, and second is at the end of Lord Brahma's life, or the day of Brahma, life of Brahma. And then the third one is called as ātyantika. Ātyanika. That is ultimate. Ultimate is what? Even when we living entity, the false ego is destroyed. So the false ego of living entity destroyed, that is called as ultimate annihilation. It means what? The living entity, actually they understand very well that we are servant of Lord, and they escape the cycle of birth and death, and they go back to spiritual world. So that is called as ultimate kind of ultimate annihilation of the jivas, when jivas false ego is destroyed. And when the cloud originally produced from the sun is torn apart, and the eye can see the actual form of the sun. So example here it says, the sun is there and the cloud is there, but because of cloud we cannot see sun. But as sun become more prominent, the clouds get departed and we can see the sun clearly. Similarly, when the spirit soul destroy his material covering of false ego, understanding that I am the body, and that ignorance is being destroyed, and he understands that I am spirit soul, not this body. How? By inquiring into the transcendental science, and he regains his original spiritual awareness. So by this, when a living entity understands his real identity, his real nature, uh, see the real nature of a sugar is to be sweet, isn't it? If you bring someone and say it's sugar, and if the sugar is not sweet, we won't say it's sugar, because sugar needs to be sweet. That's the nature of sweet, and the nature of sugar. In a similar way, salt being salty is the nature of salt, and in a similar way, the nature of the living entity is Krishna Das. Jivara Swarupa hai Nitya Krishna Das. So living entity's real nature is the servant of Lord Sri Krishna and his devotees. So when this awareness is aroused, and that time, and that happens by the sword of knowledge, when we get the knowledge from spiritual master, that we understand it. And then when this living entity actually goes cross this material cosmos, that is called as ultimate annihilation, right? There are three types, and fourth type described as nitya. Nitya is constant. Constant means if you see at every moment some kind of annihilation is happening. Our body is either becoming grown up or deteriorated, or as we discussed earlier, the flames, though it looks to be very glowing, but at every moment the one flames come out and it burns to ashes, and then again flame comes out. But those happens in a very continuous way, so we think it's actually glowing, but actually it's annihilated at every moment. In a similar way, our body and everything, it gets annihilated at every second, and that is called as nitya pralaya. And all metal entities, they undergoes transformation and are constantly and swiftly eroded by the mighty current of time. Though we do not understand it, but time takes it every moment. As we understand that one day when sun comes and sun goes back, right? One day of our life is taken away. So we do not realize it, but in a similar way, at every moment, this pralaya happens. That's called as nitya pralaya. So four type: constant annihilation. Second is ultimate annihilation, that is the jiva goes back to spiritual world. And elemental annihilation is the end of Brahma's lives, and occasional or naimittika is when Brahma sleeps at every day, at every night. And then after describing these four types of annihilation and the lifespan of Lord Brahma, Sukadeva Goswami concludes very nicely, saying the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam and the Parampara. So he says, to cross this insurmountable ocean of material existence, there is no suitable boat except that of cultivating devotion. So we may take this as a final word by Sukadeva Goswami, that if you want to cross this, if you want to get into the ultimate annihilation, the process by which the living entity can cross over to the spiritual world, by crossing over this material existence, he goes back to the spiritual world and serve Krishna in the way depending on the relationship it has with Krishna. That ultimate annihilation, or that thing can only be achieved by cultivation of devotion. So that's how Sukadeva Goswami says, to cross this insurmountable ocean of material existence, which is actually so much difficult to cross, because we are so much attached with everything, we are so much passionate to fulfill our desire, and then we keep aside the process of self-realization. And hence Sukadeva Goswami says that there is no suitable boat. We discussed earlier the boat, the spiritual master, he becomes the one who can row the boat nicely to cross this material ocean. So by taking the shelter of lotus feet of Lord, no, pure devotees of Krishna's, we can actually, they will able to take us back to Godhead. And that can only happen by the cultivation of devotion or by devotional service to Supreme Lord. And then Sukadeva Goswami says that this was all spoken long ago to Narayana Rishi, to Narada Muni, and to Narada Muni to Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva to Sukadeva Goswami, and Sukadeva Goswami had spoken this to Suta Goswami. So because Sukadeva Goswami was speaking this Bhagavatam to Parīkṣit Mahārāja, and Suta Goswami was already present there and hearing this Bhagavatam, and Suta Goswami describing Bhagavatam to Sonakadi Rishi. So that what we got, and we are hearing those things. Right. In this way, Sukadeva Goswami concludes chapter 4 by describing the day of Brahma and the 4 types of annihilation. And then by concluding, he says that to cross these material nations, one needs to take shelter of spiritual master and by cultivation of devotion. And then we'll see chapter 5. Chapter 5 is basically, we can see as the last chapter where Sukadeva Goswami gives his instructions to Parīkṣit Mahārāja. And the chapter title is Sukadeva Goswami's final instructions to Mahārāja Parīkṣit. So Sukadeva Goswami says that Srimad Bhagavatam elaborately described a various narration of Supreme Lord. So we have seen throughout this Srimad Bhagavatam that so many pure devotees of Lords are being described, how they approach Lord, how they behave with Lord, how they act in the situations, and hence Sukadeva Goswami says, because it's the final instructions, because very soon Takshakanaga is going to come and bite Parīkṣit Mahārāja. So Sukadeva Goswami, he says that give up the mentality of I am going to die. So there's a final instruction, you can see, and Sukadeva Goswami will elaborate this point actually in this chapter. What the point is, that give up the mentality that I am going to die. So it's very, very difficult to give up this mentality that I am going to die. But Sukadeva Goswami says here, he says that unlike the body, you have not taken birth. What is this? That is the soul. He's talking about soul. And there was not a time in the past when you did not exist and you are not about to be destroyed. So the soul is, it never get no birth, it never be destroyed. Krishna explains very nicely in chapter 2 that this body and soul relationship, isn't it? That Sukadeva Goswami will go again more here. I will discuss it. So he says that to think that I am going to die is basically animalistic mentality. So the one who has not been who do not have the proper knowledge, understanding of this scripture, they think that I'm going to die. And then Sukadeva Goswami gives the knowledge of spirit soul. What is that spirit soul is? Right. He says that you are different from this body. Very, very first point. You are different from this body. Means what? You are not you. So what you think as your own body, that's not you. You are the spirit soul, and that which is different from this body. And soul is distinct from the body. Soul is unborn, immortal. And Sukadeva Goswami gives an example. He says that in a dream, one sees his own head cut off, and in awake, he should understand that this body is made of 5 elements. So in the dream, one can see his own head being cut off, but still, when he awake, it's not the truth. In a similar way, when we are awake, he should understand that this body is not he. It's actually, this body is made of 5 Panchamahabhut, or 5 elements, or 5 metal elements. And the material body's qualities, activities of the spirit soul are created by the material mind. So because of the mind, because of the how we engage in this 3 modes, how we associate everywhere, that makes the body. Because in that the cultivation of our daily life, that creates our new body quality and activities. And the mind is created, even the mind is not its own. Mind is created by the illusory potency of Lord. So So the Goswami says that the soul is different, soul is distinct from this body, and this body is created by this five element. And how it get this is get the bodies and the qualities and activities of the spirit soul by the engagement of mind. And however, that mind is also created by the illusory potency of Lord. And material life based on soul identification with the body is developed and destroyed by the three modes. So we have discussed elaborately earlier as well how engaging ourselves with the three modes, we define our own next destiny or next body. And that's why Krishna always says, uh, we should try to, by analysis, we should try to keep our activities into mode of goodness, because from mode of goodness there is a chance of taking ahead to a self-realization, but in mode of passion and ignorance there is no chance. And also we discussed, like, the living entity who are in mode of goodness, they goes to our heavenly planet, and the living entity in the mode of passion, they remain in the earthly planet, and in the mode of ignorance they go degraded. So that's been said by Sukadeva Goswami here as well, that the identification of body is developed and destroyed by these three modes which act according to our mind. And however, as he said earlier, the soul is distinct, unborn, immortal and now he says the soul is self-luminous. So in the spiritual world, we do not need sun to give light. Everything is chinmaya there, everything is all self-luminous, right? And then he says that separate from gross body and subtle body. So earlier he says that soul is distinct, and he says soul is different from this body. And now he goes more, he says that soul is separate not only from this gross body, which is Panchamahabhut, also it's different from the subtle body. That's Mana Buddhi Ankar. So Krishna says Panchamahabhut, Bhumir Apo Analo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhir Evacha. So Ankar Ityame Bhinna Prakriti Ashtadha. So these 8 elements, 5 are gross and 3 are subtle body. So we as soul is covered by these 8 elements. The one which you could see are made of body, that is 5 elements, and the one which are subtle we can't see. We can't see mind, we can't see intelligence, we can't see ego. Even sometimes but if you see, some way you can see mind, intelligence and ego as well. How? So when we become angry, we can see the ego who is subtle, but action has came up. When we are intelligently solved something, we can see that okay, the mind is intelligent, subtle, but still because of by using the intelligence we can achieve something. So that way we can see subtle body as well. And the higher than that is the soul. So soul is covered by gross body and subtle body. And Sukadeva Goswami says that the soul is separate from gross body as well as subtle body too. And uh, there is an again endless without metal comparison. So there is no comparison between this soul and this gross body and subtle body. And then he says, he instructed Parīkṣit Mahārāja, he said, no, you carefully consider your true self. So try to understand your true self and how it is that self, the true self, how it is situated within this metal body. Just try to understand this, and by constantly meditating upon the Supreme Lord Vasudeva, and by applying clear and logical intelligence. So how to understand that the true self is within us? That is by focusing or meditating our mind on Supreme Lord Vasudeva, and by taking the instructions what he has given, like from Bhagavad Gita, and by understanding or by applying this logic as given in the Shastras, so that we can understand the difference between the soul, the gross body and the subtle body. And after giving these instructions, Sukadeva Goswami says that the snake bird, that is Takshakanag, he will not burn your true self. So see, let's link the point. Sukadeva Goswami explained that soul is different from this body, And then again, he says the soul is even different from this subtle body as well as gross body. And now he is saying that you should try to understand that your true self, the true identity. Who am I? The very, very basic question. Who am I? Am I the spirit soul, or am I this metal body? And try to understand that true self. And then the Goswami says that snake bird or Takshakanaga, he will not burn your true self. Though this body, we'll see it in chapter number 6 or 7. I think in chapter 6, next chapter only, that how the body of the body of Parīkṣit Maharaj got burned to ashes within a second by biting of the Chakshakanaga. But Sukadeva Goswami says that your true self will not be burned. It means what? That the spirit soul will not be burned. And now he says that he assured him that you have already conquered all dangers on the path of back to Godhead. So you have already cleared, because he have been hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam, and his name is Parīkṣit. He actually, Parīkṣit Maharaj is one of the best example you can take about. He has seen Krishna within the womb of his mother, right? And then at the end, 7 days of even his whole life, he was searching for Krishna. And at the last 7 days, he was completely absorbed in hearing about Lord Sri Krishna. And hence, he has conquered all the dangers on the path of back to Godhead. It means there is no way around that he is going to come back again in this material world. He is already on the path of spiritual world, because he has already concentrated, he has already meditated his mind, focused his mind on the feet of Lord Sri Krishna, because by hearing all the dedication, by hearing the narration of Lord Sri Krishna elaborately, though he knew very well that very soon, in 7 days I'm going to die, but still he was not deviated from the fight. He has no tinge of fear of death. He was eager to hear about the Lord's pastimes. And then Sukadeva Goswami says that I have narrated you everything, whatever you have asked. So what more do you wish to hear? And then these are the concluding words of Sukadeva Goswami to Parīkṣit Maharaj in chapter number 5. And then the chapter number 6 says Maharaj Parīkṣit passes away. So in this chapter we will see that how Maharaj Parīkṣit he gave up his body and went back to spiritual world. So Maharaj Parīkṣit then humbly he approached his lotus feet of Sukadeva Goswami, and he bowed down, he folded his hands and said that I have achieved perfection in my life. So that's the perfection of life, to hear about the glories of Lord Sri Krishna and meditate upon those pastimes. And he says, you have been so merciful. You are anyway, you are great, but you have been so merciful to me by describing all this narration of Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, which is without beginning or end. And you have personally spoken all this narration to me. So he is glorifying Sukadeva Goswami, and he's saying, you have been so merciful to me by describing all this narration of Lord Hari to me, and I have heard from you the perfect summary of all Puranas. So we'll see, actually in next chapter we'll see about all the Puranas being described by Sutta Goswami, how many Puranas are there and how they are divided, classified. And here it being described that Srimad Bhagavatam is the perfect summary of all Purana, that we have discussed elaborately in Canto 1 as well, right? And that's how, by glorifying Sukadeva Goswami, Parīkṣit Maharaj says that now I have no fear of Takshaka or anything else. Anyone else can come, but I do not have any fear basically, I do not have any fear of death. So by saying this, and he says, I have absorbed myself in the purely spiritual absolute truth. So I am completely in concentration with meditation of Supreme Lord. And now he is asked, he says, please give me permission to resign my speech and the function of all my senses onto Lord Alokshaja. So I want to meditate completely. I want to be absorbed in the transcendental Lord Krishna or Lord Alokshaja. Alokshaja means again who is beyond these three modes. Krishna's another name Alokshaja, or the other meaning is the three modes cannot touch Krishna. Krishna is above them. That's Adokshaja. And you revealed by the most auspicious features of the Supreme Lord as well to me. And I am now fixed in knowledge of self-realization, and all my ignorance are eradicated. So, though anyway he was completely realized soul, that's why, because he was completely realized soul, that's why he wished to approach to the great sages and ask, what shall I do at the end of my life? If we would have been somewhere there, in that case we would be in another state, isn't it? We won't be having our stable mind. Okay, in 7 days we are going to die. That's not going to happen. But Parīkṣit Mahārāja was already a very self-realized soul, and he was completely in. But just for us, he's saying, his ignorance is being eradicated. And then Sutta Goswami says that Sukadeva Goswami gives the permission to Parīkṣit Mahārāja, and Sukadeva Goswami departed from that palace, from the place. So, in the very starting of this canto, Bhagavatam, we have heard that Sukadeva Goswami is on that platform that he would not used to stop at any place. He used to stop for very, very less time in any place. It is described that anyone who can take out the milk from a cow, that time of span Sukadeva Goswami would stay, and then he will depart from the place. But here he stayed for 7 days and 7 nights just to speak the glory of Lord Sri Krishna to Parīkṣit Mahārāja. And then Parīkṣit Mahārāja, as Sukadeva Goswami departed, Parīkṣit Mahārāja sat on the bank of Ganges and he meditated upon the Lord, and he became stationary as a tree. So he was completely absorbed in the transcendental form of Lord Sri Krishna. And then Takshak Naga, as he was to approach, Takshak Naga was, while approaching to Parīkṣit Mahārāja, he in the middle, he met Kashyapa Muni on the path, and he gave so many gifts to Kashyapa Muni as well. And he knew that Kashyapa Muni is so great that he could revive my poisons as well. And then after that, after meeting Kashyapa Muni, the Takshak Naga, he disguised himself as a Brahmana, and he approached the king, and he bite Parīkṣit Mahārāja. And as soon as he bite, body of Parīkṣit Mahārāja was immediately burned to ashes by the poison of the snake Takshak. And then there's nice pastimes comes, and then Mahārāja Janmajaya. Maybe we'll discuss these pastimes the rest half of this chapter tomorrow. That basically what happens to Mahārāja Janmajaya, he becomes very angry by hearing this incident that his father Parīkṣit Mahārāja being beaten by the snake, and he started to do a sacrifice, and in the sacrifice he wanted to bring all the snakes into the fire, even Takshak Naga as well. And we'll see it on Friday maybe. Anyone have any questions or thought? So we are in the middle of chapter number 6. Okay, if there is no questions, we can stop here.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sorry. So is this the end of Bhagavatam after this?
So yes, we have nearly more 7 chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Okay.
Not 7, in fact 5 chapters, 5 or 6. Yes. So that is how basically it's ending of see. So what happened? So the Bhagavatam which we are hearing is the discussion happening between Sutta Goswami and Sonakadi Rishi in the place of Naimittika. So Naimittika Rishi, they have came there to do yajna, and there arrived Sutta Goswami, and they have given a very high seat to Sutta Goswami and asked Sutta Goswami to please speak on this Bhagavatam. basically the best of everything, best thing we can do. And then Suta Goswami narrated this story or the Bhagavatam to Sonakadi Rishi, the one which he had heard from Sukadeva Goswami narrating to Parīkṣit Mahārāja. Initial stage of Canto 1 started with this Suta Goswami and conversation between Sonakadi Rishi, and now ending 5 chapters will again come back to there. So, from one layer to back. So we are now going out and out the higher hierarchy.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai.